Okay, here we go. We're back on. We're back online again. I want to talk today about have a conversation, basically, about the SCOTUS' decision today. The Supreme Court of the United States decided today that they're going to Alexa, stop. The Supreme Court of the United States today upheld President Trump's Muslim ban, although the Muslim ban part has been engineered out of the actual law that was submitted. This was the third time that that Trump has submitted, a Muslim ban, and the first two times they learned from their mistakes and why they were called out. So the first one they changed. For the second one, they took out stuff that the courts didn't like and made it sound more like something else. And then this is the third one after the second one was rejected. And this third one, by the way, has been disapproved. It wasn't approved, or it was cut down in two different lower federal courts. It was a 5-4 decision, as Supreme Court cases tend to be. And notwithstanding the fact that Merrick Garland, that the United States got ripped off by Mitch McConnell from Merrick Garland, now we have a Supreme Court that on the 5-4 side is going to go the conservative way. Now, the conservative way used to mean something, and now it means money and hating immigrants. Apparently. So the third time's the charm, right? And what they did on this last one was add a couple of countries that aren't predominantly Muslim, so then they could say it's not just Muslim countries. The countries that are included now, that as of today, now Supreme Court case rulings, no matter who the judges are and what they decide, it's permanent. So what you'll see here is that people that are not Republican are going to say this is, are going to go, okay, well, this is the court. Now, how do we fix this, right? Whereas people who are Republicans, and when I say other people than Republicans, I'm not talking about Democrats. I'm talking about everybody. Republicans in the United States, Republicans self-identify as 27% of the population. Self-identifying Democrats are 29%, and no party preference self-identifying United States citizens who claim no party preference and no party loyalty, that's over 42%. So most of the people aren't in a political party, okay? That being said, the Republicans right now happen to be the people that are in control of things, and they happen to be doing things in a way that is decidedly un-American and against Western principles. Now, the Supreme Court today, one of the things they did, one of the reasons they approved it was because it was temporary. Now, I know the original one was supposed to be a 90-day ban. Now, in the meantime, it's been like a year and a half, so anything that would have happened in that first 90 days has happened, right? Anyways. So I think it's a 90-day ban, although they made it longer in this law. But that's part of the reason why the Supreme Court approved it, because it is within the scope of presidential authority and what presidents can do. But and so that, along with the fact it's temporary on face value to fix the system, whatever. By the way, the system we have for immigration is really stringent, and it's all kinds of interviews and all kinds of background checks and all kinds of stuff. So there's that. So that's what the Supreme Court does, and that's what we have. Now, they did say that they're aware the eyes of the world are upon them with this decision, because because the rest of the world and everyone but Republicans in this country really despise this whole thing. So more than one of the justices on the 5 side, the winning side, or the deciding side, are really worried that this is, they went based on strictly the pieces of the law. The way the thing was written in at 3.0 struck all the right chords so that they could just, based on the law, what they would call loopholes, but it's the law. When you hear President or Sarah Huckabee Sanders talking about loopholes, democratic loopholes, that's bull. It's the law. Plus, Democratic Party isn't ever going to be trying to hurt people or put them in jail or putting businesses over humans usually. The phone's about to die, so I guess that when Periscope cuts out, it's going to cut out. You can find me on gaslight.caster.fm, gaslighttoday.caster.fm, and that's where I store the podcasts. So that's something that's just something weird, and this whole approving Muslim ban. I started to say the countries. The countries are now Iran, North Korea, Syria, Libya, Yemen, Somalia, and Venezuela. Now, North Korea and I think Somalia are not Muslim countries, Muslim predominant. And so that's why, because they added those in, it helped with this really narrow decision. Now, when you hear about narrow Supreme Court decisions, it means that they didn't decide a big wide thing that everybody has to follow. It's just about this one little thing, this one piece of law, and they made that clear too. That's what was going on here. Now, the problem that I foresee happening is that the president will see this as a big green light to be as racist, nativist, whatever you want to call it, without being too offensive. But that's where they want to go. Nobody's coming on, so I don't really have any questions to answer, clearly. But that's the basis of it. And Trump's going to look at this and he's going to say, I can do all kinds of stuff now. And he's going to say stuff out loud that is lies. I mean, this guy is beyond lying. The things that he does to lie are to manipulate people into the first thing he says is his dog whistle. That's for his true follower, hardcore. He could shoot someone, as Rudy Giuliani said, he could shoot Bob Mueller or James Comey. Giuliani said, well, Trump could shoot James Comey and pardon himself and nobody could do anything. And that's a pretty strong statement for a lawyer representing the president to make in real time. So that's kind of what's up with the Supreme Court travel ban, is that it's supposed to be temporary, but we don't know for how long, like everything. And that's one thing. Now the reason I tie this together with the next thing, which is the putting kids in cages, arresting people that are seeking asylum in the United States, and that's really bad. Asylum is something that's not only written into, enshrined into the United States law, but also in international law. And that's why we've been condemned for the first time ever. That I know of, anyways. It's possible it's happened before. We've been condemned by the United Nations Human Rights Council as violating people's civil rights. The rest of the world, that's how they see us, because that's what we're doing. So what is asylum? Asylum is when you, as a person, a unit, a family, the place where you're living, whether it's the physical circumstances or the mental circumstances or the political circumstances, and it's usually a mix of those things, are so bad that the people are willing to give up their entire life and their relatives and everything and come to a place of asylum where they have a chance, a place that says, bring us your poor, your weary, your huddled masses. That's what the United States is. It's what it's always been, and that's how my family got here, and that's how your family got here. Unless you're a First Nation family or Inuit or something, then of course this is your country. Now, my family came here in the 1600s, and we're immigrants, and everyone who came after us is immigrants too. So the headline I wrote was that the women and girls are missing, and that's what's happening. So what's happened is the administration isn't giving access to these black site kiddie concentration camps that they have. They've been calling it a camp. They've been calling the ones they're building now camps. So I don't know if they're referring lightly to internment camps, which is when we put everyone who is Japanese or Japanese ancestry, regardless of citizenship status, into camps in the United States during World War II. By the way, those same the children of those of and those of age of those people put in internment camps, many of them went to war, fought in the United States war on our side. The units from these camps were the highest regarded, the highest decorated group in the war. Were the people who we had put in internment camps and their children/grandchildren that are age came out, fought with us in the war, and then after the war was over, they let people out of the internment camps. Now, those people didn't get their money back. They didn't get their property back. They didn't get their regular lives back. Who got their property and their stuff? White people. Now I'm a white person, and the white privilege thing is one thing that I'm starting to come to grips with, I think. I'm seeing more and more examples, but as I think back in history, I think about that. So what we're doing right now is we're taking a person predominantly of one race, Latinas and Latinos, Hispanics, Latins, and we're putting them, we're taking them, and when they come here, they cross like 2,000 miles of inhospitable territory. They go on road, they walk, they get rides, they take buses, they first they raise everything their whole family can get together money wise to pay someone to help them get through, and then they suffer all these hardships for months. They fight their way up to the border of the country that always gives asylum, due justice, due diligence. We look at people who are asking for asylum, and we look at their situation individually, and we decide, if they warrant asylum. If they do, it doesn't matter how many of them there are. That's not how the United States works. That's not how world refugeeism works. These people aren't Mexicans crossing the border. They're from El Salvador. And they're from, I don't even know if they're coming from Guatemala anymore. They're from Honduras. They're from places that are under siege right now. And they're under siege because, there's lots of reasons. But let's say the drug cartels is a big thing. They're under siege from the drug cartels. Who buys the drugs? The reason why the drug cartels are there, beating everyone up and taking over everything? It's because they send everything to the United States. Okay? The regimes there are authoritarian or killing people. Why? Because we don't do anything. We don't say anything. So this is what's going on. Okay? So this is what's going on there. An example is a woman who was seeking asylum with her daughter, because where they were was so bad in El Salvador, I believe, that they watched their husband dig his own grave and then get killed and put in it, and then were sold into sex slavery, sex trade. So she got out, and she made her way all the way up here. And you know what they do? You know what the new plan, the new policy has been? They separate them, and unless the mother or the adult has all of the exact right proper identification in their hands to show, like a birth certificate of the kid showing the mother's name or the father's name, and photo identification, maybe a passport of the mother or father, and something tying, that would tie them together and prove. Well, these people are a lot of them are running for their lives at the moment. They're giving up everything. Maybe they had these papers when they started a 2,000-mile trek where where all kinds of stuff happens. They are taken advantage of along the way. Not all of them, but it happens. Women get raped, and people get killed, and children disappear into human trafficking or whatever. That happens along the way. Now they lose, they may have started out with it, or maybe they didn't have this stuff. These people are poor. They live in countries where they're poor, and they're okay with that. They're not coming here because they want to take Donald Trump's money, okay? That has nothing to do with what they're doing, with what someone seeking asylum does or is doing. They're just trying to survive and trying to get their kids to survive. so we've denied asylum. We've shut down asylum. There is no such thing anymore as sanctuary. Legally, you have to go to a port of entry, which are the border checkpoints, and present yourself. But the border checkpoints are setting weird boundaries outside of themselves, like halfway across a bridge, so that anyone seeking asylum can't step foot on American soil. They stop them hundreds of yards before they get to American soil, because once they step on on American soil, just like it is with every other country and every embassy in the world, that's your country soil, and that is a country soil. So these people are trying to make it to the United States soil, and the United States is stopping them at an illegal checkpoint before they get there. It may be 100 yards, it may be longer. Doesn't matter. They're not letting them get to the checkpoint to claim asylum. Now, the people that are being caught, I'm going to go back to the that are being caught. They're turning themselves in. I fall into the verbal, BS as much as anybody, right? It's hard to undo, the basic biases that we have. I'm gonna take a quick drink here. So they're taking the people, and if they don't have the right identification anymore or ever, they're separating them, and they're calling the adult a child trafficker, a human trafficker, and they're putting them somewhere. They're taking the kids, and they're giving them a number and putting them in jails. I mean, that's basically what's happening. Whether there were cages, there are cages. The only photos that have been allowed to be released by the government at all are government photos. Nobody is allowed to, practically nobody's even allowed to get in there. Senators, congressmen women are being denied entry. The press is being denied entry. We don't even know where the camps are that have the women and children, or if they were all sent to Saudi Arabia into sex, slavery or something. We don't know. They say that they know where the kids are, but when Nielsen, the secretary of DHS, stood at the podium and said that they were all fine, and when I believe it was April Ryan asked the question of where are they, and she didn't know. She didn't know. She didn't know where they were. She didn't even. Then she said, "Well, yeah, of course I know. Of course we know where they are." Well, they didn't know where they are. They don't know where they are. They still don't know where they are. So there's a lot of misinformation going on, and that's part of what happens in when things go toward authoritarianism. So now we've got authoritarianism that was clear as day in this country, in our government right now, because the Congress isn't acting as a check on the presidency, which is one of their three jobs: act as a check on presidency, pass laws, and pass a budget. And they really are piss poor on the budget for the last 10 or 15 years, right? Or maybe longer, I don't know. So we're separating people. We're labeling human beings as human traffickers, and Kristen Nielsen uses this figure. She says it's 85%. It's 314%. The human traffic. We're catching human traffickers at a 314% or 341%. increase over years before, just before. Well, that's because they're calling everyone that's coming across that doesn't have all the right idea to identify them as a kid. They're calling them human traffickers. They're calling them, and this is real. So we don't know where the kids and girls are. They've released some photos from one place where they let one reporter in, Jacob, I'm drawing a blank on his name, sorry. They let one reporter in, he looked around, and then they released some photographs. And what they released photographs of were brown boys in their teens and older, I guess probably 12 to 17 or whatever, behind chain link fences, with underneath little foil space blankets. And that's all they get. In fact, when they come in, DHS takes everything from them, non-essential items. There's a janitor who worked there who recently quit, who at one point he worked there for years. At one point what's going on now? He realizes he was dumping the trash, that the things in the trash were the things that belonged to these children and their parents. They were rosaries. And he's a photographer too. So now he has a little. You can go Google it. Photos of stuff stolen from caged children or internment children. You can the backpacks. Just lined up backpacks, rosaries, pieces of paper with phone numbers and addresses on them. That the things that would tie these people together are in the trash, literally, and that's being proven by a guy that worked there who is a photographer also. Okay, so I said that already, right? Now, they're not showing us they won't let anyone in to see any girls or women or toddlers. There are boy and girls as young as 3 months old in these facilities. 3 months old. Sorry, you have a cat. Cat gets in the way. 3 months old in these facilities, and people don't believe it. Some people very close to me are no longer, very close to me because they refuse to just believe facts. And when someone is in a conversation with you, and there's like, oh, I thought this and you thought that. Let's grab a computer and look at it. And as you reach for the computer, if they start shrinking, like the closer you get to the computer, the more they look like a vampire getting away from a cross, then they're not interested in facts. They just want to feel good about something. I don't know. I can't say what they are. I can say they're not interested in facts, right? So when you're having this conversation, how do you do it? I don't know. So this has all been a one-way conversation, and I guess I'm going to cut it off because that's what I wanted to cover. The girls and the women are not being shown. We're just being shown thuggish boys behind cages or behind chain link fences, like you would see at a prison. If you were to stand outside a prison and look at the people and the ones that you could see, they would be behind a chain link fence. So they're showing you visuals of Latino boys behind a chain link fence and refusing to say even where the women and girls are. We don't know where they are. They also are making lies. Oh yeah, we reunited 500 people in one day. That's bull. They're this is propaganda, folks. Okay. Anyways, do your own research, but thanks for watching if you've been watching, or listening if you've been listening, or podcasting later on. Have a good one.